Sup Team KBA, One Tech Traveler here. For this video, I decided to switch it up by angling my table and the camera. So if you dig it, let me know down in the comment section, or if you prefer front facing, keeping things parallel and symmetrical, also let me know down in the comment section. Now for today, I want to revisit Microsoft's Surface Go. I originally did a video more than 1 year ago where I talked about my thought process, why I opted for the Surface Go over the Surface Pro. The bottom line was just the Surface Go's dimensions. It was much more compact and sizable difference from the Pro, much lighter too, that allowed me to do enough productivity work on the fly without all of the heaviness of things. The Surface Pro, of course, still being fairly light when you compare it to other laptops, but that was also much more expensive. You don't get as much performance in the Surface Go, so it's treated more as the entry-level class into the Surface family. But I found that this slotted in perfectly as a secondary device for my Surface Book at the time, which was much more heavier, thicker for, my editing, gaming, just more of that powerhouse work. Whenever I'm writing, doing light editing, or just media consumption, I kind of just like having something lighter and easier to work with. So this was travel friendly, very compact, easy to move between classrooms, university rooms, or just when you are traveling around. I like to be light and minimal in my setup unless I need my laptop to do all the heavy lifting. Since that video, there was a lot of good discussions about the Go and the Pro. There have been 2 generations of the Surface Go, namely the Surface Go 2 and the 3. I kind of want to revisit how the Surface Go has fared in that time since, what you basically get for the 2nd and 3rd generations, some of the differences, and just see whether the Surface Go has relevance to meet the needs that you are looking for. Still very unique till this day. It has that flexible hinge that allows it to stand without needing an additional accessory or cover, so I like that being built into design. You still have one USB-C port, great for powering up, plugging in any devices like a USB stick. It's better to get a little adapter so you can plug in those thumb drives or external hard drives. But it's also the outlet where you can just plug it to a monitor or a TV so you can project, watch, stream, or just work from a larger display. You still have the signature Surface keyboard, and over time this does get a little bit dirty, so you can see in the corners here it's picked up a lot of the sweat marks of your hands as you rest your palms, so that's just something that you'll naturally expect from these Alcantara keyboards. But overall you can still tell it's navy, just getting a little bit dirty. I've always enjoyed typing on these keyboards. Very easy to work with and very satisfying too, considering it's small. It's really well designed, so I never find it that difficult to increase my typing experience. Now, the Surface Go has a 10-inch screen, whereas the Surface Go 2 and the Surface Go 3 have a 10.5-inch screen. They all have the same 3:2 aspect ratio, which means that it's better for productivity because you get a little bit more height whenever you are working on documents or even some software, and you get a bit more pixels in the Go 2 and the Go 3. It basically keeps the same hardware dimensions, it just minimizes the bezels. One of my complaints on the original Surface Go was the design. It kind of looked a bit outdated considering how thick those bezels were, but if you are handling it as a tablet, then it has good enough bezels for you to hold it comfortably without worrying your hand is going to sort of interact with the actual screen. Of course, it is a touch screen and supports pen. The pen is sold separately, but I find it to be responsive. Of course, it's going to be down to the performance of how it's able to process any of that interaction. So don't expect really high responsiveness as what the Surface Pro would, because they just have much better processors in them. But if you aren't doing anything intensive and just more of a complementary flow for your graphic design work, your schoolwork, annotating, or just navigating around the OS, I found it very responsive to use. So that's the Surface Go. Now, the Surface Go 2 and the Surface Go 3, not much has really changed since then. They've been more iterative and kind of refining the overall proposition of what the Surface Go was. Like I mentioned, slightly thinner bezels, which was one of my complaints. and then just beefing up the processor a little bit more. I expected the Go 2 to either put in the Core M3 or the i3, and we now see the i3 in the Surface Go 3. There's a lot of threes, but it actually means you're getting really good performance now in the Surface Go, which is more than capable of what the original version. To hit the lower price points, they still offer Intel's processors. They are dual core and it's Intel Pentium Gold. Go 2 and on the Go 3 in particularly, they have the Intel Core i3, which for this sort of size is actually very impressive. Naturally, they're going to cost more, but you do get more RAM, and more importantly, you have an SSD drive for your storage, much faster than the cheapest model, which are only 4 GB and eMMC 64 gig storage. Most of that is eaten up by the operating system itself, and eMMC storage is just much slower to access all of your files. So on your day-to-day basis, SSD just works more fluidly. Try and go for the 128 GB version with the 8 gig RAM. It's just better future-proofed and it's able to handle more of the software. Everything just feels much more fluid and you're less likely to get any hiccups or slowdowns because it kind of runs out of the available RAM or even the storage, and obviously how fast the storage is. So if you can fork out a little bit more, I would recommend that. My Surface Go since that time has honestly been flawless. It still runs as smooth and as fast from when I had it previously. Typing on the Surface keyboard is great and I still find it one of the best executions for a keyboard device in tablet form factors, whether that's Samsung's Galaxy Tab S7 or even Apple's iPad. Maybe it's more biased because I've used this device, but I really like the overall typing experience here. It's backlit as well, which makes working into the evening still possible, something other keyboards don't necessarily execute that well. The keyboard itself is separate and is quite costly. Normally you find some good bundles, but if you're looking to make this more of a primary device that converts it not only just as a media consumption but also productivity machine, then I do highly recommend this. The mouse is optional. It's wide enough on the keyboard so you can move around with it, but of course with a touchscreen, yeah, just make use of it to move around. Any limitations that I've come across on the Surface Go, not including the Surface Go 2 and the 3, is a recent limitation, and that is Windows 11. So if you've been paying attention, the new refresh for Windows is going live, and it's the first time that Microsoft have made a hard border on defining how far back Windows 11 supports. Sadly, the Surface Go is not one of them. I think they support as far back as the 8th generation Intel and of course AMD's equivalent processors. The Surface Go was just before that, which means whenever I checked in the PC settings, it says it is not supported. So officially, you cannot upgrade to Windows 11, which does make this as a stumbling block in terms of how future-proof the software is on Microsoft's Surface Go. You still get all your security updates for Windows 10 and all of that jazz. Just means you don't get the latest version of Windows you can upgrade to on the Surface Go 2, and is naturally included when you purchase a Surface Go 3. That being said, Windows 11 kind of removed some of the tablet-friendly stuff that was going on, primarily being able to customize tiles, and it just set up the startup with all of my kind of main things I like to access. So I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing, but if you do want the latest and greatest, it's got to be from the Surface Go 2. Would I want this as a primary machine? If I'm not doing any video editing, this is nice. There's many times when I just prefer to get my Surface Go over my recent Asus G14. If I'm just going to type, go to a cafe, browse, like just do some of your lighter stuff. When it comes to media consumption, I just have this constantly plugged to my TV because I want to stream or watch Netflix. Everything works smoothly, all compatible through USB-C, and I don't have to look and lug around a big power adapter to charge up my laptop because you can just run this on a battery pack. Battery life is still reasonable. Again, it's just like 5 hours. It depends what you're doing on it. Power charger is pretty small for the Surface Go, and like I mentioned, just get a battery pack, USB-C cable, and you are good to go. So this is kind of a default whenever I want to like travel around. Even if I'm looking to go to another country, that's fine, but I can't leave my Asus G14 because I need it for all of my editing and more of that Xbox gaming experience. But with that aside, The Surface Go, I'm still super happy with it. That's the bottom line. Even though there have been 2 generations since my original Surface Go, I still find everything to work flawlessly. It's more of a refinement over what the Go offered, which was still very appealing. It's just a bit more refined in the hardware, a slightly larger screen to work with. The biggest boost, of course, being the processor, which does offer better battery because it's more efficient. But the overall Surface Go experience is pretty much there. As long as you're not pushing it hard or expecting it to do a lot of the heavier work duties that you would expect from, say, a Surface Pro, then I think with all expectations in check, you're still going to find this amazing. And I still think it's the best Windows tablet as a form factor where you can really do a lot of your PC work and it keeps things light and simple. If you find a good price on it, definitely go for it. If you're debating between the Surface Go 2 and the 3 and there's quite a big price difference, happily go for the Surface Go 2. If I'm happy just with the Surface Go, then I still think most of you will be happy with Surface Go 2 in terms of value. But hey ho, if your budget stretches to it, then you can consider the Surface Go 3. Although you might want to check out my video between the Surface Pro and the Go to see whether the money that you're spending on a Surface Go is better spent with the Surface Pro. A lot of Surface, a lot of Pros, a lot of Go's floating around, but hopefully that makes it clear. And just wanted to follow up on that video, give an updated viewpoint on how I've been using my Surface Go and how much I still find it relevant in my current workflow, lifestyle, and just the way I like to be productive. Do you have a Surface Pro or any of the Surface Go generations? Sound off in the comment down below and share your thoughts and how they have been for you, whether that is through media consumption, trying to be productive in your workplace, professions, or even at school. I think a lot of people will benefit and find value on hearing your thoughts and also better details of maybe the limitations you've come across within your field. Give this video a big thumbs up if you found it useful and would like to see more discussion type of tech videos like this one. You can also see my written review of the Surface Go on my website at onetechtraveler.com, and make sure you subscribe to my channel to see more around tech, travel, and gear. Thanks a lot, Team KBA. I'll see you in the next video, but until then, keep being awesome. Peace.